Have you ever found the person you didn't know you were searching for? The question hung in the air, like dust over Arizona territory, waiting for an answer that would change everything. Cole Brennan didn't know it yet, but July 15, 1867, would be the day his carefully constructed solitude shattered like glass under a hammer. The day a gunshot in Oak Creek Canyon would pull him back into a world he'd sworn to leave behind. The afternoon sun beat down merciless and white as Cole guided his horse along the trail toward Prescott. His daughter, Lily, dozed in the leather carrier strapped to his saddle, her tiny fist clutching the worn fabric of his shirt. 1 year old, and already she'd known more loss than most children experienced in a lifetime. Her mother, Sarah Cole's wife of 3 years, had died bringing Lily into this world. Childbirth, the doctor had said. Nothing anyone could have done. Cole had heard those words 1,000 times in his dreams. Nothing anyone could have done. They echoed now as his horse's hooves struck the hard-packed earth, each step a reminder of the promise he'd made over Sarah's grave. No more fighting, no more violence, just him and Lily and the small ranch 8 miles east of Prescott. A quiet life, a safe life. The gunshot shattered that promise like it had never existed at all. The crack of rifle fire rolled across the canyon, sharp and clear in the dry air. Then another. Then a woman's scream, high and desperate, the kind of sound that carried the weight of mortal terror. Cole's hand went to the Winchester rifle in its scabbard before his mind fully processed what he'd heard. Instinct. Muscle memory from 4 years of cavalry service, from battles whose names he tried hard to forget. Lily stirred in the carrier, making the small questioning sounds that meant she was about to cry. "Whoa, girl," Cole murmured, reining in his horse. He looked down at his daughter, her face scrunched in that pre-wail expression he'd come to know so well. "Stay quiet, little one. Papa's got to check something." Another scream, closer now. And English words, not Apache. A woman speaking English in the middle of nowhere, with gunshots punctuating her terror. Cole made his decision in the space between heartbeats. He wrapped the reins around the saddle horn, drew his Winchester, and urged the horse toward the sound. Moving quiet the way they'd taught him in the cavalry. The way that had kept him alive when so many others had died. The canyon walls rose steep on either side as he approached red rock glowing in the afternoon light. Juniper and scrub oak clung to impossible angles, their roots digging deep into stone. Beautiful country, deadly country, the kind of place where a person could disappear and never be found. Cole dismounted 50 yards from where the screaming had come from, ground tying his horse in the shade of an overhang. He checked Lily one more time. Her eyes were wide now, watching him with that solemn intensity that sometimes made him wonder if she understood more than any baby should. "I'll be right back," he whispered, touching her cheek. "You stay quiet for Papa." Then he moved forward on foot rifle ready, every sense alert. The voices reached him first, 2 men laughing. The kind of laughter that made Cole's jaw tighten and his fingers settle near the trigger. "Quit squirming, darlin', we ain't gonna hurt you much." "Yeah, just be nice, and we'll make it quick." More laughter. Then the woman's voice again, different now. Not screaming, controlled, cold. "My people will find you. They will take days killing you." "Your people." One of the men snorted. "You mean them Apache they left you, honey? Seen 'em ride off an hour ago. You ain't nothing to them no more." Cole eased around the last boulder and saw them. 2 men, rough-looking, dressed in the mixture of army surplus and stolen goods that marked them as outlaws. One held a rifle pointed at the ground. The other had his hands on a woman tearing at her dress while she struggled. The woman was young, maybe 19 or 20. Blonde hair tangled with dirt and leaves, dress torn at the shoulder. But it was her eyes that stopped Cole cold. Blue as a summer sky, burning with fury instead of fear. And on her forehead, fresh and raw, someone had carved a word into her skin. Traitor. "Let her go." Cole's voice cut through the canyon like a blade. Both men spun toward him. The one with the rifle started to bring it up. Cole shot him first. Center mass. The man went down without a sound. The second man released the woman and clawed for the pistol at his hip. Too slow. Cole's second shot took him in the chest, spinning him backward into the dust. Silence fell over the canyon, broken only by the echo of gunshots rolling away into distance. The woman stood frozen for a moment, staring at the bodies. Then her legs gave out, and she collapsed to her knees, arms wrapped around herself, shaking. Cole approached carefully, rifle still ready. You never knew in this country. People weren't always what they seemed. "You're safe now, ma'am." She looked up at him. Those blue eyes were wet with tears now, but the fury hadn't left them entirely. When she spoke, her English was perfect, but there was something underneath it. An accent. A rhythm that spoke of years spent speaking a different tongue. They were going to kill me, not a question. A statement of fact delivered with the kind of certainty that came from experience. "Yes, ma'am, I expect they were." Cole lowered the rifle, though he didn't put it away. "Can you stand? We need to move. Gunshots carry in this country." She tried to rise, stumbled. Cole caught her elbow, steadying her. The touch was brief, respectful, but he felt her flinch anyway. Couldn't blame her for that. "What's your name?" he asked. "Sarah." She paused, then added something that sounded like it came from a different life. "Sarah McKenna, but they called me White Dove." Before Cole could ask who they were, a sound cut through the air that made his blood run cold. Lily, crying. His daughter's wail echoed from where he'd left the horse, high and frightened. Sarah McKenna's head snapped toward the sound, her body going rigid. "Baby," she whispered. "There's a baby." Cole was already moving, running back toward his horse, with Sarah stumbling after him. A dozen terrible scenarios flashed through his mind. Apache raiders, more outlaws, mountain lions. But when he reached the horse, Lily was alone, red-faced and screaming in her carrier. Tiny fists waving at the sky. Just hungry, just tired, just being a 1-year-old who'd been strapped to a saddle for too long. "It's all right, sweetheart, it's all right." Cole fumbled with the straps, lifting her out. "Papa's here." But Lily wasn't having it. She arched her back and wailed louder, the kind of cry that meant she was working herself up to a full tantrum. Then Sarah McKenna did something that would change the course of all their lives. She hummed. It was an Apache lullaby, though Cole didn't know that yet. Low and rhythmic, a sound like wind through canyon walls, like water over stone. Sarah stepped closer, still humming, and reached out tentative fingers toward the screaming baby. Cole should have pulled back, should have kept Lily away from this stranger with blood on her torn dress and a scar carved into her forehead. But something in Sarah's eyes stopped him. Something gentle, something that remembered what it meant to care for the helpless. Lily's crying, stuttered, broke. She turned her head toward the sound, her wet eyes finding Sarah's face. Sarah's hand touched Lily's cheek, feather light. The humming continued soft and hypnotic, and Lily smiled. Cole felt something crack open in his chest, some place that had been frozen solid since his Sarah had died. His daughter never smiled at strangers. Never. She screamed at everyone except him and old Doc Walsh, who delivered her into this world. But she was smiling now, reaching her tiny hands toward this blonde woman who smelled like smoke and wilderness and spoke with the rhythms of the Apache. "How did you—" Cole's voice came out rough. He cleared his throat and tried again. "Where did you learn that song?" Sarah's hand was still on Lily's cheek, her humming fading to silence. When she looked at Cole, confusion clouded her expression. "I don't remember learning it. I knew it." Her fingers trembled slightly. "What is her name?" "Lily. Her name is Lily." "Lily," Sarah repeated and smiled despite everything that had just happened to her. "It's beautiful." Cole pulled his canteen from the saddle and offered it. "Here, you should drink." She took it with both hands, drinking deep. When she lowered it, water dripped from her chin. She wiped it away with the back of her hand, a gesture that was somehow both delicate and practical. "Thank you. I thought—" She stopped, looking away. "I thought I was going to die today." Cole shrugged out of his jacket and held it out. "Put this on. Your dress is torn." Sarah took the jacket, wrapping it around her shoulders. It swallowed her small frame, but the coverage seemed to make her stand a little straighter, a little less broken. "What were you doing out here alone?" Cole asked, though he was already forming his own theories. The scar on her forehead, the Apache lullaby, the way she'd said, "My people will find you," to those outlaws. Sarah looked toward the canyon walls, toward the distant mountains where the Apache made their camps. Her jaw tightened. "I wasn't alone. I was with people who raised me for 11 years, people I thought were my family." Her voice went hard. "They left me here to die because I don't belong anywhere. Not with the Apache, not with the whites, nowhere." The pain in those words was raw enough to make Cole look away. He knew something about not belonging, about the space between what you were and what others expected you to be. He adjusted Lily in his arms, making his decision. "You'll come with me now." Not a question. A statement. "My ranch is 8 miles east of Prescott. You can rest there, figure out what comes next." Sarah's eyes widened. "I can't. You don't understand. The men who did this—" She touched the scar on her forehead. "They'll be looking for me, and there are others. White men who want me dead for what I know." "Then it's a good thing I can shoot." Cole turned toward his horse, then paused and looked back at her. "Can you ride?" A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "Better than most white men." "Then let's move. Those gunshots will draw attention we don't want." They rode double Sarah, sitting behind Cole with Lily between them in the carrier. The arrangement was intimate, unavoidable, her arms around his waist to keep from falling. Cole tried not to think about how long it had been since a woman had touched him, tried not to notice the way Lily kept turning her head to look at Sarah, babbling those nonsense sounds that might have been words in a language only babies understood. They'd gone maybe 2 miles when Sarah suddenly tensed her grip, tightening on Cole's waist. "Stop," she whispered. "Creek bed ahead. Fresh tracks." Cole reined in, scanning the terrain. He didn't see anything unusual, just rocks and scrub and the endless Arizona landscape stretching toward distant peaks. "How do you know?" Sarah pointed. "The grass. See how it's bent there, and their unshod horses passed through in the last hour. 3, maybe 4, moving east." Cole looked where she indicated and saw it. Subtle. Easy to miss if you didn't know what to look for, but she was right. Horse tracks and recent. "Apache?" he asked quietly. "Yes." Sarah's voice was steady, but he felt her heartbeat quicken against his back. "They're watching us right now, from the high ground to the north." Cole's hand moved toward his rifle, but Sarah caught his wrist. "Don't. If they wanted us dead, we'd already be dead. They're letting me go." The grief in her voice was sharp as broken glass. "They're making sure I leave their territory. You said you lived with them for 11 years. Cole kept his eyes on the high ground, but he couldn't see anyone. If they were there, they were invisible. "What happened?" Sarah was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I saved a white child last month, a baby. There was a raid confusion. I saw soldiers about to kill an infant, and I couldn't let them. So I took the child and hid until the fighting stopped." She took a shaky breath. "The tribe called me traitor, said I chose white lives over Apache lives. They carved that word into my skin so everyone would know what I am." Cole felt something cold settle in his gut. "What happened to the baby?" "I got her back to the soldiers. A little girl, maybe 6 months old. She had a scar on her hand shaped like a crescent moon." Sarah's arms tightened around Cole's waist. "I never learned her name, but I think about her sometimes. Hope she's safe." The world seemed to tilt sideways. Cole looked down at Lily, at her small right hand where it gripped the carrier, at the crescent-shaped scar on her palm, 6 months healed now. The scar she'd gotten when a mountain lion had attacked, and he'd found her crying in the brush, abandoned and alone. The scar the doctor said would fade, but never quite disappear. Dove, he said, using the name the Apache had given her. Look at Lily's hand. Sarah leaned forward, following his gaze. He heard her breath catch. The scar, she whispered. That's impossible. 6 months ago, I was checking fence lines near Apache territory, heard Lily crying, found her in the brush with a mountain lion circling. Cole's throat was tight. There were tracks, woman's tracks barefoot, leading away. I always wondered who saved her, who led that cat away so my daughter could live. Sarah's hands were shaking now. She reached past him to touch Lily's hand, tracing the scar with gentle fingers. Lily grabbed her finger and held on, gurgling happily. I didn't know, Sarah breathed. I didn't know if she survived. I just ran and the cat followed me and I thought... Tears were streaming down her face now, silent and unstoppable. I thought I'd die that day, but at least one child would live. Cole twisted in the saddle to look at her properly. This woman who'd saved his daughter's life and been exiled for it, who'd been left to die in a canyon and carved with the word traitor for showing mercy. You saved Lily, he said. You saved my daughter when you could have run, could have left her. His own eyes were burning now. I've been looking for you for 6 months, to thank you, to tell you that she lived because of you. I don't need thanks, Sarah said, but her voice broke on the words. Maybe not, but you've got it anyway. Cole turned back to the trail, set his heels to the horse. And more than that, you've got a place to stay as long as you need it. Protection, safety. Whatever I can give you, it's yours. I owe you my daughter's life. There's no debt bigger than that. They rode in silence. After that, the weight of revelation settling over them like desert dust. Behind them, invisible in the high rocks, Apache warriors watched them go, making sure White Dove left their territory, making sure the traitor with blue eyes and a white man's face never came back. But one of those warriors was Red Hawk, the man who'd found a terrified 8-year-old girl after a wagon train massacre and raised her as his own daughter. He watched longer than the others, his weathered face unreadable, his hand resting on the medicine bag Sarah had made for him 3 winters past. Go in peace, little dove, he whispered in Apache, though she was too far away to hear. May the spirits watch over you in the white man's world. Then he turned his horse and rode away into the mountains, taking a piece of his heart with him. Cole's ranch came into view as the sun touched the western horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. It wasn't much. A small cabin, a barn that needed repairs, corrals for the horses, and the handful of cattle he ran. But it was home. It was safe. It was the life he'd built for Lily after Sarah had died. As they approached, Cole saw a rider waiting by the fence. A young man in an army uniform, sitting easy in the saddle like he'd been there a while. Trouble, Cole muttered. Sarah stiffened behind him. Army. Looks like it. The rider stood as they approached. Clean-shaven regulation uniform, the kind of soldier who followed orders without questioning them. He held a piece of paper in his hand. Mr. Brennan, the soldier's voice was respectful but firm. I'm Corporal Hayes from Fort Whipple. I have a message from Captain Vernon Drake. Cole dismounted, helping Sarah down, before turning to face the corporal. What kind of message? Hayes held out the paper. It was a wanted poster, freshly printed, the ink still dark and new. Wanted Sarah McKenna. White woman, age 19, blonde hair, blue eyes. Last seen in Apache territory. Witness to Army property theft. Reward $200. Approach with caution. Contact Captain Drake, Fort Whipple. Cole's blood ran cold as he read it. Beside him, Sarah had gone very still, her face pale in the fading light. Captain Drake wants her found, Hayes continued. Says she stole Army records, evidence of supply irregularities. He's offering $200 to anyone who brings her in. Cole folded the poster carefully and put it in his pocket. I haven't seen anyone matching that description, Corporal. Hayes looked past Cole to where Sarah stood. Cole's jacket wrapped around her torn dress, the scar on her forehead still red and angry. That right there looks like someone matching that description, Mr. Brennan. That's my cousin, Cole lied smoothly. "Just arrived from California. Had some trouble on the trail. As you can see, she's been through enough without being hassled by the Army." The corporal's eyes narrowed. "Your cousin." "That's what I said." For a long moment they stood there in the gathering dusk, the tension thick enough to cut. Then Hayes shrugged and mounted his horse. "I'll tell Captain Drake I delivered the message. What you do with it is your business." He touched his hat brim. "But a word of advice, Mr. Brennan Drake's not a man to cross. He wants that woman, and what Drake wants Drake gets, one way or another." Then he rode away, leaving Cole and Sarah standing in the yard with Lily between them and $200 on Sarah's head. Cole waited until the soldier was out of sight before pulling the wanted poster from his pocket. He walked to the wood pile, struck a match, and set the paper on fire. They watched it burn together, the flames eating the words and Sarah's description until nothing remained but ash. "Why?" Sarah asked quietly. "You could collect that reward." $200 is a lot of money. Cole looked at her, at this woman who'd saved his daughter and been betrayed by everyone who should have protected her. At the strength in her blue eyes, despite everything she'd endured. At the way Lily was reaching for her even now, wanting to be held. "Because you saved my daughter's life when you could have left her to die. Because you chose mercy when your world demanded you choose hate." He picked up Lily, held her close. "And because I made a promise to my wife before she died. I promised I'd protect our daughter, do right by her, teach her what real honor looks like." He looked at Sarah McKenna, at the woman called White Dove. "Turning you in wouldn't be honor. It'd be cowardice. And I won't have my daughter growing up thinking her father was a coward." Sarah's eyes filled with tears for the second time that day. But this time they were tears of something that looked almost like hope. "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't thank me yet." Cole turned toward the cabin, juggling Lily in his arms. "Captain Drake isn't going to stop looking. And if those outlaws I shot were working for him, things are going to get worse before they get better." "What do we do?" Cole paused at the cabin door, looking back at her. At this strange, fierce woman who'd appeared in his life like an answer to a prayer he hadn't known he was praying. "We survive," he said simply. "Together, whatever it takes." Later that night, after Sarah had bathed and changed into clothes that had belonged to Cole's wife, after Lily had been fed and sung to sleep with Apache lullabies after the dishes were washed and the horses tended, Cole stood on his porch and looked out at the stars. Sarah McKenna had saved his daughter's life 6 months ago, when a mountain lion had circled and death had seemed certain. She'd led the predator away, offering herself as bait so a white baby she'd never met could live. Now she was in his house, sleeping in what had been his wife's sewing room, with a price on her head and an Army captain hunting her for crimes she probably didn't commit. Cole Brennan had promised himself a quiet life, a safe life. No more fighting, no more violence. But as he looked at the stars wheeling overhead in their ancient dance, he knew those promises were ash now, burned like the wanted poster, gone like smoke on the wind, because saving Sarah McKenna was going to cost him everything he had left. And somewhere deep in his chest, in that place that had been frozen since his Sarah had died, Cole felt something warm and alive beginning to stir. It felt like purpose. It felt like the future. It felt like coming home. Dawn came soft over the Arizona hills, painting the world in shades of rose and gold. Cole woke to the smell of coffee and something else. Bacon. Fresh biscuits. The kind of breakfast he hadn't bothered making since Sarah died, when meals had become fuel rather than comfort. He found Sarah McKenna in his kitchen, moving with quiet efficiency between the cast-iron stove and the rough-hewn table. She'd tied her blonde hair back with a strip of cloth, and she wore one of his wife's old dresses, the blue calico faded from washing but still serviceable. On her hip, balanced with the ease of long practice, was Lily. His daughter was laughing. The sound stopped Cole in the doorway like a physical blow. Lily hadn't laughed since her mother died. She'd cried, she'd fussed, she'd made the 1,000 small noises that babies make. but she hadn't laughed, not in a year. Now she was giggling as Sarah made faces at her exaggerated expressions that had Lily squealing with delight. "Good morning," Sarah said, noticing him. She shifted Lily to her other hip. "I hope you don't mind. I couldn't sleep and I thought—" "It's fine." Cole's voice came out rougher than he intended. He cleared his throat. "More than fine, thank you." Sarah set a plate in front of him. Bacon biscuits, eggs, scrambled with wild onions she must have found growing near the creek. It was the kind of meal that spoke of someone who knew how to make do with what was available, who'd learned to cook over open fires and turn simple ingredients into something that felt like home. They ate in comfortable silence, broken only by Lily's babbling and the clink of forks on tin plates. Outside, the ranch was coming awake. Chickens scratching in the yard, the soft nicker of horses in the corral, the sounds of a normal morning in a life that felt anything but normal anymore. The knock on the door came just as Cole was finishing his second cup of coffee. He tensed hand, moving instinctively toward the rifle propped against the wall. Sarah noticed her eyes going sharp and alert. "Easy," came a familiar voice from outside. "It's just Doc Walsh. Saw smoke from the chimney and figured I'd check if you were still among the living Cole Brennan." Cole relaxed and opened the door. Doc Walsh stood on the porch, medical bag in one hand, a knowing smile on his weathered face. He was 60, if he was a day, with silver hair and shrewd eyes that had seen just about everything the frontier could throw at a man. "Doc," Cole said, "bit early for a house call." "Bit early for you to have breakfast smells this good coming from your kitchen." Doc peered past Cole's shoulder, his eyebrows rising. "Well now, you weren't kidding when you said your cousin was visiting." Sarah appeared in the doorway behind Cole, Lily still on her hip. She'd wiped the flour from her hands, but there was still a smudge on her cheek. "Dr. Walsh," she said with a slight nod. "Just Doc is fine, miss." Walsh's eyes went to the scar on her forehead, then away, his expression carefully neutral. "That's a nasty wound. You want me to look at it? It's healing." Sarah's hand moved unconsciously to touch the carved word, then dropped. "But thank you. Suit yourself." Doc turned back to Cole. "Actually, I came by because there's talk in town. Army corporal rode through yesterday evening asking questions about a blonde woman. Description matches your cousin here pretty well." Cole's jaw tightened. "What kind of questions?" "The kind that come with a $200 reward attached." Doc's voice was mild, but his eyes were serious. "Now I've known you since you came back from the war, Cole. Known you to be an honest man. So when I hear the Army's looking for someone, and that someone happens to be staying at your ranch, I figure there's more to the story than what's on a wanted poster." Sarah shifted Lily to her other hip, her posture tense. "Dr. Walsh, I don't want to bring trouble to Cole's door. If my being here puts him in danger—" "Hush now," Doc interrupted gently. "I didn't ride out here to turn you in or lecture Cole about harboring fugitives. I came to see if you folks needed help." The simple kindness in his words seemed to shake something loose in Sarah. Her eyes filled with tears, though she blinked them back quickly. "Why would you help us?" she asked. "You don't know me," Doc smiled, the expression crinkling the corners of his eyes. "Don't need to know you to see you're in trouble, and I don't need to know the whole story to know the Army's been doing some questionable things out here lately." He looked at Cole. "Your cousin here wouldn't happen to know anything about missing supply shipments, would she?" Cole and Sarah exchanged glances. There was a question in her eyes. "Trust him." Cole made the decision. "Come inside, Doc. We'll tell you the whole thing." They sat around the table while Lily played with wooden spoons on the floor. Sarah told her story with quiet precision, leaving nothing out. The wagon train attack when she was 8. Her parents' death. Red Hawk finding her in the wreckage, taking her to his wife, who'd lost 3 babies to fever and wanted a child to love. 11 years of living Apache, learning their ways, their language, their medicine. Then 6 months ago, the Army raid on the camp. Not a battle. A raid. Soldiers attacking at dawn, shooting anyone who ran. And in the chaos, Sarah seeing Captain Vernon Drake and his men loading supply crates onto pack horses. Not fighting, stealing. I knew those crates. Sarah said, her fingers tracing patterns on the table. They were marked for the reservation. Food, blankets, medicine, things the people needed to survive the winter. So you took something, Doc said. It wasn't a question. His ledger. It was in his saddlebag. I grabbed it before they saw me. Sarah looked up, her blue eyes fierce. It has everything. Names, dates, amounts. Proof that Drake and his brother Silas have been stealing from the tribes for 2 years. $50,000 worth of supplies sold to Confederate sympathizers down in Mexico. Doc let out a low whistle. That's treason. That's why they want her dead, Cole added. Not arrested. Dead. Those men in the canyon yesterday weren't trying to capture her. They were trying to make sure she never talked. Where's the ledger now? Doc asked. Hidden, near Apache Pass, at a place only I know. Sarah's hands were trembling slightly. I was trying to get to Fort Whipple to give it to the commander when the tribe found out I'd taken it. They thought I'd stolen from the army, that I'd brought more trouble to the people. They didn't understand I was trying to help. So they exiled you, Doc said quietly. They carved traitor into my forehead and left me to die. Sarah's voice was flat, emotionless. Red Hawk argued for me. He's the warrior who raised me after his wife died 5 years ago. But even he couldn't stop the council's decision. Doc was quiet for a long moment, his fingers steepled under his chin. Then he nodded as if coming to a decision. All right, here's what we're going to do. Cole, you still have friends at Fort Whipple. A few. Marshal Tom Garrison is there this week handling some federal cases. Good man Garrison. Honest. Doc stood picking up his medical bag. Get word to him. Tell him what's happening. We'll need federal law on our side if we're going up against an army captain. You're helping us, Sarah asked, disbelief coloring her voice. Doc smiled. Miss McKenna, I came to this territory 30 years ago with nothing but a medical degree and a stubborn streak. I've delivered half the babies in Prescott, set bones for miners and cowboys and Apache scouts alike. I've seen good people and bad, and I've learned to tell the difference. He touched the brim of his hat. You saved Cole's daughter. That makes you good people in my book. After Doc left, Sarah turned to Cole with wonder in her eyes. He believed us, just like that. Doc's seen a lot in his years. Hard to fool a man who's looked that much suffering in the face. Cole picked up Lily, who immediately grabbed for his beard. But he's right about one thing. We need that ledger, and we need federal law involved before Drake makes his move. You think he'll come here? I know he will. Cole looked out the window at the empty road stretching toward Prescott. The question is when. The answer came 3 hours later, announced by the thunder of hoofbeats and the jingle of spurs. Cole saw them coming from a distance. 5 riders moving fast, kicking up dust in the morning sun. He recognized the lead rider's silhouette even from half a mile away. Jack Keller. Sarah, Cole called, his voice calm but urgent. Take Lily and go into the back room. There is a rifle on the wall and ammunition in the chest. If shooting starts, you get down low and stay there. Sarah appeared in the doorway, flour on her hands from making bread. She took one look at Cole's face and scooped up Lily without a word, disappearing into the back of the cabin. Cole stepped out onto the porch, Winchester in hand. He didn't aim it, didn't need to, just holding it was message enough. Keller and his men reined in 20 yards from the house, their horses blowing hard. Keller himself was a big man running to fat, but still dangerous, with eyes like chips of dirty ice and a smile that never reached past his teeth. Cole Brennan, Keller said, his voice carrying easy across the distance. Heard you had something that don't belong to you. I have a lot of things, Keller. You'll have to be more specific. Don't play stupid, the white squaw. The Army wants her, and they're paying good money. Cole's finger settled near the Winchester's trigger. I don't have any idea what you're talking about. That's so? Keller's smile widened. Funny thing, my boys found 2 of our men shot dead in Oak Creek Canyon yesterday, right about the time you were riding through with a blonde woman on your horse. Your boys should pick better company. Canyon's full of Apache raiders this time of year. Apache don't use Winchester rifles, Brennan. Keller shifted in his saddle. Here's how this is going to go. You hand over the woman, we ride away peaceful. You don't, and we come back with enough men to burn this place to the ground. Before Cole could answer, the cabin door opened behind him. Sarah McKenna stepped onto the porch and she was holding Cole's spare rifle. "If you want me," she said, her voice steady as stone, "come and get me. But know this, Jack Keller. I killed a mountain lion with my bare hands. I survived 11 years in Apache territory, and I sure as hell won't go quietly." Keller's face darkened. "Big talk from a woman." "Not talk." Sarah raised the rifle, aimed it at Keller's chest. "Promise." The standoff held for a heartbeat. 2, 3, 5 men against 2, but Sarah's rifle never wavered, and Cole's stance was the relaxed readiness of a man who'd been in more gunfights than he cared to remember. Then hoofbeats sounded from the east. New riders, 6 of them moving at an easy lope. The lead rider wore a Marshal star on his vest, and his face was weathered leather under a wide-brimmed hat. Marshal Tom Garrison, 52 years old, and tougher than the land that had tried to kill him for 3 decades. "Problem here, Keller." Garrison's voice was mild, but his hand rested easy on the pistol at his hip. Keller's eyes flickered between the Marshal and Cole. "Army business, Garrison, don't concern you." That right Garrison pulled a piece of paper from his pocket. "See, I got a telegraph this morning from Doc Walsh. Says there might be some irregular activity involving Army supply officers. Says I might want to ride out this way and make sure everything's on the up and up." Keller's face went from red to white. His hand moved toward his pistol, but he saw the 6 deputies behind Garrison and thought better of it. "This is bullshit," he snarled. "You got no right. I got every right." Garrison's voice went cold. "Now you can ride out of here while I'm feeling generous, or you can join Drake in a cell. Your choice." Keller spat in the dust. "You'll regret this, Marshal. All of you." His eyes locked on Cole. "Especially you, Brennan. You took my brother. You took my future. I'll take everything from you before this is done." Then he wheeled his horse and rode away, his men following. They disappeared into the crowd before Garrison's deputies could close in. "Should we go after them?" one deputy asked. Garrison shook his head grimly. "Let him go for now. We've got Drake, and that's what matters. Keller's just a rabid dog. We'll put him down when the time comes." But Cole watched Keller disappear with cold certainty settling in his gut. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Garrison dismounted his deputies, spreading out in a loose perimeter around the ranch. "Doc filled me in on the basics. You want to tell me the rest." They gathered in the cabin, Cole and Sarah and Marshal Garrison, while Lily napped in the back room, and the deputies kept watch outside. Sarah told the story again, and Garrison listened without interrupting, his weathered face unreadable. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed. "I've suspected Drake was dirty for months. Supply shipments going missing. Tribal chiefs complaining about short rations. But I didn't have proof." He looked at Sarah. "You're telling me this ledger has everything, names, dates, amounts, proof of 2 years of theft?" Sarah leaned forward. "But it's hidden. 3 days' ride from here near Apache Pass." "Then we go get it," Cole said. Garrison shook his head. "Too dangerous. Drake knows you're here. He'll have men watching the roads." "Which is why we don't take the roads," Sarah said quietly. "I know Apache trails through the mountains, paths the Army doesn't know exist. We can be there and back in 5 days if we move fast. Cole looked at her. "You think I'm going to let you ride into Apache territory alone?" Sarah's eyes were fierce. "That land is my home. I know every creek, every canyon, every place to hide. You need me." Garrison rubbed his jaw. "If you go, you'll have to take Lily. Can't leave her here. Drake might use her as leverage." "No," Cole started, but Sarah cut him off. "He's right. They've already shown they're willing to kill. A baby won't stop them." She looked at Cole, and something passed between them. Understanding, trust, partnership. "We go together, all 3 of us. We get the ledger, and we bring it back to the Marshal. Then this ends." "And if Drake catches you," Garrison asked. Then we fight, Cole said simply. Garrison stood settling his hat on his head. I can give you 5 days. After that, I'll have to report to Fort Whipple officially, and then everything goes through Army channels. Drake will know we're coming. 5 days is enough, Sarah said. After Garrison and his deputies left, Cole and Sarah stood in the yard, watching the sun climb toward noon. Lily was awake now, playing with wooden blocks on a blanket spread under a cottonwood tree. You don't have to do this, Cole said. I could go alone, hire a guide. You'd be dead before you reached Apache territory. Sarah's voice was matter-of-fact. The trails are marked with signs only Apache can read. Hidden passes, water sources, places where the rocks shift and can kill you if you don't know the way. You'd be going back to the people who exiled you. I know. Sarah was quiet for a moment. But that ledger is the only thing that can clear my name, the only proof that I was trying to help, not hurt. She looked at him. And I owe you. For believing me, for protecting me when you could have turned me in. You don't owe me anything. You saved Lily. Then I'm not doing it for debt. Sarah's blue eyes held his. I'm doing it because it's right. Because those supplies were meant to feed children who are starving, to keep elders warm through winter, to heal the sick. Her voice went hard. Drake and his brother stole hope from people who had almost nothing left. I won't let them get away with it. Cole reached out and took her hand. The gesture was simple, natural, like something they'd done 1,000 times before. Her fingers were work-roughened, scarred from years of survival. They fit perfectly in his. Then we ride at dawn, he said. Together. Together, Sarah agreed. That night, after Lily was asleep and the dishes were washed and the horses were fed, Sarah found Cole on the porch. He was cleaning his rifle, the familiar ritual of soldier and lawman preparing for what was coming. She sat beside him without asking, and they watched the stars wheel overhead in their ancient dance. Cole? Her voice was soft in the darkness. Can I ask you something? Anything. Your wife, Sarah. What was she like? Cole was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he smiled a sad expression that held equal parts grief and fondness. She was strong, stubborn as hell, laughed like music. He paused. She wanted a child more than anything. We tried for 3 years. When she finally got pregnant with Lily, she was so happy. What happened? Childbirth. The baby was breech. Doc did everything he could, but Cole's voice roughened. She made me promise right at the end. Promise I'd raise Lily right. Teach her to be strong and kind and brave. She said... He stopped, swallowed hard. She said she wasn't afraid to die because she knew Lily would have me. Sarah's hand found his in the darkness. She was right. Lily's lucky to have you. I'm not so sure about that. I can barely keep her fed and clean. Can't make her laugh. Don't know any lullabies. Cole looked at Sarah. But you do? You know how to make her smile, how to calm her when she's fussy. You're better for her in 3 days than I've been in a year. That's not true. It is. Cole turned his hand over, threading his fingers through hers. Sarah, I need you to know something. Whatever happens out there, whatever we find at Apache Pass, you'll always have a place here, with me and Lily, for as long as you want it. Sarah's breath caught. Cole, I don't know if I can stay. Even if we get the ledger and clear my name, I'm not Apache anymore, but I'm not really white either. I don't belong in either world. Then maybe we make a new world. Cole's thumb traced circles on her palm. One where it doesn't matter what you were, only what you choose to be. And what do you choose? Sarah whispered. I choose you, Cole said simply. However that looks, whatever it means, I choose you. They sat in the darkness, hands joined, and above them the stars blazed in their millions. Tomorrow they would ride into danger. Tomorrow they would face an enemy who wanted them dead. Tomorrow everything could fall apart. But tonight, for just this moment, they had each other. And for now, that was enough. Dawn broke cold and clear over the Arizona mountains, the kind of morning that promised heat by noon but started with frost glittering on the scrub grass. Cole loaded the last of their supplies onto the pack horse, while Sarah secured Lily in a carrier she'd fashioned from blankets and leather straps, Apache style, designed to keep the baby safe and quiet during long rides. "You're sure about this?" Cole asked, watching Sarah work. Her fingers moved with practiced efficiency, tying knots that would hold but could be released quickly if needed. "I've never been sure of anything in my life." Sarah looked up at him, her blue eyes steady. "But I'm going anyway." They rode out as the sun touched the eastern peaks, 3 souls on 2 horses heading into country that wanted them dead. Cole led on his roan, gelding Sarah behind him, with Lily strapped to her chest. The pack horse followed on a lead rope carrying food, water, ammunition, and the hope that they'd live long enough to use any of it. The trail Sarah chose didn't look like a trail at all. It was a thread of bare rock winding between canyon walls, invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. They climbed steadily through the morning, the horses picking their way over loose stone and around juniper that clung to impossible angles. "Apache Highway," Sarah said when Cole questioned the route. "We've been using these paths for hundreds of years. The Army doesn't know they exist. And if we meet Apache, then we talk or we die. Or we... Depends on who we meet and what kind of mood they're in." It wasn't reassuring, but it was honest. Cole appreciated that more than empty comfort. They'd been riding for 3 hours when Sarah's hand touched his shoulder. The pressure was light, but urgent. "Stop." Cole reined in his hand, moving to the rifle scabbard. "What is it?" "Riders, 3 of them. High ground to the north." Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "They've been shadowing us for the last mile." Cole looked but saw nothing except rock and sky and the endless sprawl of Arizona wilderness. "How do you know?" "Ravens. See them circling. Something disturbed them. And the way the light hits that ridge, there's dust in the air. Fresh dust." Sarah shifted Lily to a more comfortable position. "They're Apache. Probably scouts from Red Hawk's band." "What do? We wait. If they wanted us dead, we'd already have arrows in our backs." Sarah raised her voice, speaking in Apache, the words flowing like water over stone. Cole didn't understand the language, but he understood the tone. Respectful, firm, not pleading. For a long moment nothing happened. Then 3 riders appeared on the ridge above them, materializing like ghosts from behind rocks that shouldn't have been able to hide a rabbit, let alone 3 men on horseback. The lead rider was older, maybe 40, with a weathered face and eyes that had seen too much death. He spoke in Apache, his voice carrying across the distance. Sarah answered, her hands moving in gestures that seemed to be part of the language itself. The conversation went back and forth for several minutes while Cole sat tense in the saddle, trying not to look threatening while keeping the rifle within easy reach. Finally, the Apache warrior made a sharp gesture. Not hostile, almost respectful. Then the 3 riders turned and vanished back into the rocks as silently as they'd appeared. Cole let out a breath he hadn't known he was holding. "What did you say?" "I told them we were going to Apache Pass, that we sought evidence to punish white men who stole from the people." Sarah's voice was soft. "Red Hawk was with them. He said to tell you that any man who protects White Dove is friend to the Apache. He'll make sure we have safe passage through their territory." "Your father?" "The man who raised me, yes." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "He said one more thing. He said Lily has brave eyes, that she'll grow to be a strong woman." Cole looked down at his daughter sleeping peacefully against Sarah's chest, unaware that 3 Apache warriors had just decided whether she lived or died. "He's a good judge of character," Cole said. They rode on. The sun climbed higher, turning the air thick and heavy. By noon they'd descended into a valley where a creek ran between cottonwood trees, the water clear and cold from mountain snowmelt. Cole called a halt to rest the horses and let them drink. That's when Lily decided she'd had enough of being quiet. The baby's wail split the peaceful afternoon like a gunshot. Sarah quickly untied the carrier, lifting Lily out and checking her with practiced hands. "She's wet," Sarah announced, "and probably hungry. Cole dismounted and began digging through the packs for clean cloths and the goat's milk Mrs. Chen had provided. But when he turned back, Sarah was laughing. Actually laughing, her head thrown back and her eyes bright with mirth. "What's so funny? You." Sarah pointed at his hands. "You're holding the milk bottle in one hand and a box of ammunition in the other. I don't think Lily's quite ready for bullets yet." Cole looked down and realized she was right. He'd grabbed the wrong supplies in his haste. "I'm not good at this," he muttered, setting down the ammunition and finding the cloths. "You're doing fine." Sarah laid Lily on a blanket spread under the cottonwoods and began changing her diaper with efficient movements. "You kept her alive for a year on your own. That's more than fine, Cole. That's heroic." Heroic would be not needing help. Cole handed her the clean cloth. "I can face down outlaws and survive cavalry charges, but one baby defeats me completely." Being a father isn't about being perfect. Sarah wiped Lily clean and fastened the fresh diaper. It's about showing up, trying, loving them even when you're terrified you're doing everything wrong. She picked up Lily and held her out to Cole. "Here, you feed her. She needs to know it's not just me taking care of her." Cole took his daughter awkwardly, settling her in the crook of his arm and offering the bottle. Lily latched on immediately, her eyes finding his face. "See?" Sarah sat beside him on the blanket. "You're not terrible at this. You're just scared. There's a difference. Scared doesn't begin to cover it." Cole watched Lily drink, her small hands wrapped around his thumb. "Her mother died bringing her into this world. Every day I wake up terrified I'll fail her somehow, that I'll make the wrong choice and lose her too." "You won't. You don't know that. I do." Sarah's hand covered his where it supported Lily's back. "You rode into a canyon yesterday when you heard a woman scream. You could have kept riding, kept yourself and Lily safe. But you didn't. You went toward the danger because someone needed help." She was quiet for a moment, watching Lily drink. "Your wife died giving Lily life. That's a tragedy, but it's not your fault, Cole. And spending the rest of your life feeling guilty doesn't honor her sacrifice. It wastes it." The words hit Cole like a fist to the chest. He'd been carrying that guilt for a year, wearing it like armor, using it to keep everyone at arm's length, even his own daughter. "She made me promise," he said quietly, "right before she died. Promise I'd raise Lily right. Be a good father. And you are." Sarah's fingers tightened on his hand. "A good father isn't one who never makes mistakes. It's one who keeps trying, who loves fiercely even when he's terrified, who rides into danger with his baby daughter because staying home means staying scared forever." Lily finished the bottle and immediately grabbed for Sarah's hair, her face scrunching into the expression that meant she was about to laugh. Sarah made a silly face, and Lily's giggle bubbled out pure and joyful. "You're good with her," Cole said. "Better than I am." "I'm different with her, not better." Sarah gently extracted her hair from Lily's grip. "She needs both of us, Cole. Your strength and my gentleness. Your protection and my healing. That's what makes a family. Family." The word hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility. Before Cole could respond, Sarah stood and stretched. "We should keep moving. Want to make it through Devil's Pass before dark. It's dangerous country after sunset." They rode through the afternoon, climbing higher into the mountains. The trail grew narrower, more treacherous, winding along cliff faces where one misstep would mean a 100-foot fall onto rocks that offered no mercy. Sarah guided them with absolute confidence, calling out warnings about loose stone and hidden drop-offs, her knowledge of the land evident in every decision. Cole found himself trusting her completely, following her lead even when every instinct screamed danger. As the sun began its descent toward the western horizon, they emerged into a small box canyon with high walls on 3 sides and a spring bubbling up from the rocks. Perfect defensive position, good water, shelter from wind. "We camp here," Sarah announced, sliding down from the horse. "It's safe. Apache have used this spot for generations." Cole dismounted and began unpacking while Sarah tended to Lily. They worked in comfortable silence, each knowing what needed to be done, the partnership between them growing stronger with every shared task. By the time the sun set, they had a small fire burning, the horses hobbled and grazing on sparse grass, and Lily fed and changed, and drowsy in Sarah's arms. Cole watched Sarah sing to his daughter the Apache lullaby, soft and hypnotic in the gathering darkness. Lily's eyes drifted closed, her breathing evening out into the deep rhythm of sleep. "What does it mean?" Cole asked quietly. "The song." Sarah looked up, firelight dancing in her blue eyes. "Sleep, little bird. The sky will hold you. Dream of tomorrow when the sun is warm and the grass is green and all the world is home." It's beautiful. It's what Red Hawk's wife sang to me when I couldn't sleep, when the nightmares came and I remembered my real parents dying. Sarah stroked Lily's hair. She told me the sky would always hold me, that I'd never fall as long as I believed. "Do you believe?" "I don't know anymore." Sarah's voice was soft. "I believed the Apache were my people, believed I belonged with them. Then they carved traitor into my skin and left me to die." "You belong here." Cole moved closer, sitting beside her. "With us, with me and Lily." Sarah looked at him, and in her eyes, Cole saw longing and fear and hope all tangled together. "Your wife Sarah. She would have liked the lullaby, wouldn't she?" "She would have." Cole reached out and tucked a strand of blonde hair behind Sarah's ear. "She would have liked you, your strength, your courage, the way you love without reservation, even after being hurt. I wish I could have known her." "So do I." Cole's hand cupped Sarah's cheek. "But she's gone, and I've spent a year being half dead, going through the motions, afraid to feel anything because feeling meant pain." He leaned closer, his eyes searching hers. "Then you walked into my life, fierce and broken and beautiful. And I felt something I thought I'd never feel again." "What?" Sarah's whisper was barely audible. "Hope," Cole said. "You made me hope again." The kiss, when it came, was gentle, tentative. Two broken people reaching for something whole. Sarah's lips were soft against his tasting of wood smoke and wild sage. Her free hand came up to touch his face, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw. They pulled apart slowly, foreheads resting together, Lily sleeping peacefully between them. "I don't know what tomorrow brings," Sarah whispered. "Drake's men could be waiting. The Apache could change their minds. We could ride to Apache Pass and find nothing but death." "I know. But tonight, right now, I'm glad I'm here." She pulled back to look at him. "With you, with Lily, in this moment." "So am I." Cole kissed her forehead, then stood and began laying out bedrolls. "Get some sleep. We've got hard riding tomorrow." Sarah settled Lily between the bedrolls, creating a nest of blankets that would keep the baby warm and safe. Then she looked up at Cole, something vulnerable in her expression. "Will you hold me?" she asked. "Just for tonight. I don't want to be alone." Cole lay down beside her, wrapping his arms around her as she nestled against his chest. Above them, stars wheeled in their ancient patterns. Around them, the canyon walls stood sentinel, and between them, Lily slept unaware that she was the bridge connecting two wounded souls. "Cole," Sarah's voice was drowsy. "Yeah, thank you for believing in me when no one else would." "Thank you for saving my daughter." Cole tightened his arms around her. "For giving me a reason to live instead of just surviving." Sarah's breathing deepened evening out into sleep. Cole lay awake longer, watching the fire burn down to embers, listening to the night sounds of the desert. Somewhere out there, Drake's men were hunting them. Somewhere out there, death waited with patient inevitability. But here in this moment, they were safe. They were together. They were alive. And for the first time since his wife died, Cole Brennan felt something other than grief and guilt. He felt whole. The fire crackled and sparked, sending embers spiraling into the darkness like tiny stars returning home. Cole closed his eyes and let sleep take him, Sarah warm in his arms, Lily's soft breathing a counterpoint to the eternal desert wind. Tomorrow would bring danger. Tomorrow would test them in ways they couldn't imagine. Tomorrow might be their last day on Earth. But tonight, they had each other. And tonight, that was enough. Tomorrow they would ride for Apache Pass and the evidence that could end this nightmare. Tomorrow they would face whatever Drake threw at them. Tomorrow they would fight for justice and truth and the right to build a life together. But first they would sleep. They would rest. They would gather strength for the battles ahead, because the journey was only beginning, and the hardest roads still lay before them. The third day of their journey dawned with the smell of rain on the wind. Cole woke to find Sarah already up checking the sky with the practiced eye of someone who'd learned to read weather like other people read books. "Storm coming," she said without looking at him. "We need to reach Apache Pass before it hits. Flash floods in these canyons can kill faster than bullets." They broke camp quickly, eating cold biscuits and dried meat while Lily fussed and squirmed in Sarah's arms. The baby seemed to sense the tension, her usual cheerfulness replaced by cranky whimpering that no amount of cooing could soothe. "She knows," Sarah said, bouncing Lily gently. "Animals and babies always know when danger's close." "Then she's smarter than most men I've known." Cole tightened the cinch on his saddle and checked his rifle. "How much further?" 2 hours if we push hard. The ledger's hidden in a cave near the old stage road. Place the Apache call Spirit's Mouth because of the way wind howls through it. They rode hard through the morning, racing the storm clouds that built dark and heavy on the western horizon. The trail descended now, winding through narrow defiles where flash floods had carved channels in the red rock. Debris from previous floods littered the canyon floor. Twisted wood, bleached bones. Reminders that nature killed as efficiently as any man with a gun. Sarah guided them with absolute certainty, never hesitating at the countless forks and branches that all looked identical to Cole's eye. She read the land like a map written in a language only she understood. They reached Apache Pass just as the first fat raindrops began to fall. The pass itself was a wide valley between towering rock walls, the old Butterfield stage road cutting through like a scar. To the south, Cole could see the ruins of the old stage station burned during some long-ago Apache raid and never rebuilt. "There," Sarah pointed to a dark opening in the cliff face 50 feet above the valley floor. "That's Spirit's Mouth." Getting to it required leaving the horses and climbing a steep talus slope of loose rock and thorny scrub. Cole went first, testing each foothold, while Sarah followed with Lily strapped to her chest. The baby had gone quiet, now her eyes wide as she watched the world from her perch. The cave entrance was narrow, barely wide enough for a man to squeeze through, but it opened into a chamber the size of a small room. The floor was smooth stone worn by centuries of wind and water. At the back, barely visible in the dim light filtering from the entrance, was a pile of stones that looked like natural rockfall. Sarah went to it immediately, kneeling and pulling rocks away with practiced efficiency. "Help me," she said, and Cole joined her, moving the stones one by one. Beneath them, wrapped in oilskin and buried a foot deep, was a leather satchel. Sarah lifted it with trembling hands. Inside was a ledger bound in black leather, its pages filled with neat columns of numbers and names. Evidence. Proof. The weapon that could bring down Captain Vernon Drake and his corrupt empire. "We did it," Sarah breathed, clutching the ledger to her chest. "We actually did it." That's when the first gunshot rang out. The bullet struck the cave wall 6 inches from Cole's head, spraying rock fragments across his face. He grabbed Sarah and pulled her down behind the pile of stones as more shots echoed from the valley below. "Keller!" Cole snarled, crawling to the cave entrance and risking a quick look. 5 riders had emerged from cover near the old stage station. Jack Keller sat his horse at the center, a rifle in his hands and murder in his eyes. His men spread out in a semicircle, cutting off any escape route back down the slope. "Brennan," Keller's voice carried over the gunfire, "you got 2 choices. Come down peaceful and hand over the woman and that ledger, or we come up there and take 'em from your corpse." Cole checked his Winchester. Full magazine. His pistol was loaded too, and he had another 20 rounds in his belt. Not enough. Not against 5 men with high ground advantage. Sarah crawled up beside him, Lily whimpering against her chest. "There's another way out," she whispered. "Back of the cave, narrow passage that leads to the cliff top, but it's a squeeze. We'll have to leave everything but the ledger." "Can we make it before they reach us?" "If we move now, yes." Cole looked at the 5 men below. They were dismounting, preparing to climb. He had maybe 2 minutes before they reached the cave entrance. "Go," he said. "I'll hold them here, then follow." "No." Sarah's hand gripped his arm with surprising strength. "We go together or not at all." There was no time to argue. Cole fired 3 quick shots down the slope, forcing Keller's men to take cover, then turned and followed Sarah deeper into the cave. The passage she'd mentioned was barely visible, a crack in the rock that looked like it couldn't possibly fit a human body. But Sarah squeezed through without hesitation, Lily protected in the carrier, the ledger clutched in one hand. Cole followed his shoulders, scraping rock on both sides, his breath coming short in the confined space. Behind them he heard shouts as Keller's men reached the cave entrance. The passage climbed steeply, twisting like a snake, so narrow in places that Cole had to exhale completely to fit through. Twice he got stuck and had to wiggle free, panic rising in his throat at the thought of being trapped while enemies closed in from behind. Then suddenly the passage opened and they were standing on the cliff top, wind whipping their clothes and rain starting to fall in earnest. "The horses," Cole said. "We left them down there." No choice. Sarah was already moving, following the cliff edge north. "There's a trail down half a mile from here. If we can reach it before they figure out where we went." They ran. Behind them gunshots echoed from the cave as Keller's men realized their quarry had escaped. Cole heard shouting confusion, the sound of men trying to force their way through the narrow passage. The trail Sarah found was more of a controlled slide than a path, a steep chute of loose rock that spilled down the cliff face. They descended in a barely controlled fall, feet skidding on scree hands, grabbing at scrub brush to slow their momentum. Cole hit the bottom hard, rolling to absorb the impact. Sarah landed beside him, somehow keeping Lily safe despite the violent descent. The ledger was still clutched in her hand. "Now we run," she said, and they did. They ran through the gathering storm, thunder rolling across the mountains and lightning splitting the darkening sky. They ran until Cole's lungs burned and his legs felt like lead. They ran until Lily's crying was lost in the howl of wind and the crash of rain. And then, when Cole thought he couldn't take another step, they stumbled onto a trail he recognized, the road to Prescott, civilization, safety. A wagon was approaching through the rain, the driver hunched against the weather. Cole stepped into the road, raising his hand. "Please," he gasped, as the wagon stopped, "we need help. There are men hunting us." The driver was a Mexican farmer Cole had seen in town, a man named Rodriguez, who sold vegetables at the market. His eyes widened at the sight of them, soaked, exhausted. Sarah with a baby strapped to her chest and wild desperation in her eyes. "Get in," Rodriguez said without hesitation. "Quickly." They climbed into the wagon bed, burrowing under burlap sacks that smelled of onions and earth. The wagon lurched into motion, and through gaps in the burlap, Cole could see Rodriguez urging his mule to greater speed. 20 minutes later, riders passed going the other direction. Keller's voice called out, asking if Rodriguez had seen a man and woman with a baby. "No one," Rodriguez answered in heavily accented English. "Just rain and mud and my poor vegetables getting wet." The riders moved on, and the wagon continued toward Prescott. They reached town as evening fell, the storm still lashing down in sheets. Rodriguez let them off behind Doc Walsh's house, then disappeared without asking for payment or explanation. Doc answered their knock immediately, as if he'd been waiting. His face was grim. "Get inside, quickly." He hustled them through the door and into his examination room. "You've got bigger problems than Keller now." "What happened?" Cole asked, water dripping from his clothes onto Doc's clean floor. Marshal Garrison was arrested 3 days ago. Army came with a warrant, said he was interfering with federal operations. They took him to Fort Whipple. Doc handed Sarah a towel. Captain Drake is in charge now. He's declared martial law in Prescott. Anyone harboring fugitives will be arrested. Sarah's face went pale. We brought this on you, on the whole town. You brought the truth. Doc's voice was firm. And there are plenty of folks here who value that more than they fear Drake. As if summoned by his words, there was a knock at the back door. Doc opened it to reveal Mrs. Chen, the Chinese woman who ran the boarding house on Main Street. She carried a basket covered with cloth. Food, she said simply, setting the basket on Doc's table, and clean clothes for the woman and baby. Her eyes found Sarah. You are brave. My people know about being hunted for things we did not do. Thank you, Sarah whispered, her voice breaking. Mrs. Chen touched her shoulder gently. We stand together, Chinese white Apache, all the same when powerful men abuse power. She left as quietly as she'd come. Over the next hour, more people arrived. The Mexican farmer Rodriguez with dry blankets. A young widow named Mary Fletcher with milk for Lily. Even drunk old Pete from the saloon bringing ammunition and a warning that Drake's men were searching houses on the north side of town. Dr. Walsh fed them beef stew and fresh bread while they dried by his fireplace. Lily fell asleep in Sarah's arms, exhausted from the day's terrors. Cole watched his daughter's peaceful face and felt something fierce and protective rise in his chest. We can't stay here, he said quietly. Drake will search every building eventually. Then you'll need to face him. Doc's voice was matter of fact. Tomorrow, in public, with witnesses and that ledger as proof. He'll arrest us on sight. Not if the whole town is watching. Doc leaned forward. Drake's power comes from fear and shadows. Drag him into the light and he loses that power. How? Town meeting. Tomorrow at noon in the square. I'll spread word tonight. Doc's eyes were hard as flint. Everyone will come. They're tired of being scared. Tired of soldiers acting like they own the place. Give them a reason to stand up, and they will. Sarah looked up from where she sat by the fire. You really think people will risk themselves for us, for strangers? You're not strangers anymore. Doc's voice was gentle. You're the woman who saved a baby, the man who's trying to do right. That matters to folks here, more than you know. The next day dawned clear and cold, the storm having washed the sky clean. Cole and Sarah stayed hidden in Doc's cellar while the sun climbed and the town square filled with people. Through the cellar's small window, Cole could hear voices. Lots of voices. The whole town seemed to be gathering. At noon exactly, Doc came down and nodded. It's time. They climbed the stairs, Sarah carrying Lily and the ledger Cole with his hand on his pistol. When they stepped out onto Doc's porch, the sight before them made Cole's breath catch. The town square was packed. Miners and ranchers, shopkeepers and farmers. The Chinese from Mrs. Chen's boarding house. Mexican families from the south side. Even a few Apache scouts who traded in town. Hundreds of people, all watching, all waiting. And in the center, mounted on a fine black horse, sat Captain Vernon Drake. He was a handsome man, maybe 38, with dark hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. His uniform was immaculate, his bearing that of someone who'd never questioned his own authority. Cole Brennan, Drake called his voice carrying across the square. You're under arrest for harboring a fugitive and stealing Army property. I'm not hiding anymore, Cole called back, and neither is Sarah McKenna. We're here to tell the truth. The truth. Drake's laugh was sharp. The truth is you're criminals, both of you. Sarah stepped forward, Lily on her hip, the ledger held high. The truth is in this book, Captain. Your truth. 2 years of theft. $50,000 in supplies stolen from the tribes you were supposed to protect. A murmur ran through the crowd. Drake's face darkened. That woman is a liar and a thief. Don't listen to her Apache lies. She's not Apache, Doc Walsh called from the crowd. She's Sarah McKenna, white as you or me, taken by raiders when she was 8 and raised by Red Hawk's people. And she's telling the truth. Mrs. Chen stepped forward. I read the book. Last night Dr. Walsh showed me. It has names, dates, how much stolen, all there in black ink. Preposterous, Drake snapped. You'd take the word of a Chinaman and a squaw over an officer of the United States Army. I'd take the word of honest people over a thief any day. The voice belonged to Tom Merrick, owner of the general store. He stepped out of the crowd, his weathered face set in hard lines. You've been charging the Army inflated prices for supplies, Drake, paying us half what you charge them and pocketing the difference. I got the receipts to prove it. And you've been short-changing the tribes, added Father Rodriguez, the Mexican priest. I minister to the reservation. I've seen children starving because rations never arrived, elders freezing because blankets were sold instead of delivered. More voices rose from the crowd, stories of corruption, evidence of theft. The dam was breaking, and once it started, it couldn't be stopped. Drake's hand moved toward his pistol. I wouldn't. The new voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Marshal Tom Garrison rode into the square, 10 federal deputies at his back. He looked thinner, harder, like a man who'd spent 3 days in an army stockade and come out meaner for it. You're under arrest, Garrison, Drake said, but his voice lacked conviction now. Actually, Captain, you are. Garrison held up a paper. Federal warrant, signed by the territorial governor himself. Says here you're wanted for embezzlement, theft of government property, and conspiracy to defraud the United States Army. This is outrageous. You demand nothing. Garrison's voice was cold iron. Your brother Silas is already in custody. He talked, Drake, told us everything. About the supply theft, the kickbacks, the plan to kill Miss McKenna before she could testify. Drake's face went from red to white. His hand definitely moved toward his pistol now. Don't, Cole said quietly, his own gun clearing leather in one smooth motion. I've killed better men than you for worse reasons. Give me an excuse, please. For a long moment the square was silent. 200 people holding their breath. Then Drake's shoulders slumped and he raised his hands. Take him, Garrison said, and his deputies moved forward. As they led Drake away in chains, the crowd erupted, cheering, shouting, relief and vindication mixing in a sound like thunder. Doc Walsh climbed onto a wagon bed and raised his hands for quiet. Today we proved something important. We proved that when good people stand together, corruption can't win. That truth matters more than power. That this town, this territory, belongs to all of us, not to tyrants hiding behind uniforms. The crowd roared approval. Sarah stood in the middle of it all, Lily in her arms, tears streaming down her face. Cole moved to her side, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. It's over, he said. You're safe now. We're safe, Sarah corrected, leaning into him. All of us. That evening, as the sun set over Prescott and the last of the celebrating townsfolk drifted home, Cole and Sarah sat on Doc Walsh's porch and watched the stars come out. Lily was asleep inside, being spoiled by Mrs. Chen and half a dozen other women who'd decided the baby needed proper fussing over. What happens now? Sarah asked quietly. Marshall said Drake and his brother will hang. The evidence in that ledger is damning. Cole took her hand. You'll be called to testify probably, but as a witness, not a criminal. And after. Cole looked at her, at this woman who'd walked into his life 3 days ago and changed everything. After you have choices. You could go back to your people. Red Hawk would welcome you, or you could go east, start fresh, where nobody knows about any of this. Or, Sarah's eyes searched his, or you could stay with me and Lily. Help me run that little ranch. Teach me Apache medicine and how to make Lily laugh. Let me teach you, hell, I don't know what I could teach you. How to shoot a Winchester, maybe. Sarah smiled. I already know how to shoot. Then teach me your lullabies, the words in Apache, so I can sing them to Lily when you're not there. What if I'm always there? Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. Cole cupped her face in his hands. Then I'd count myself the luckiest man in Arizona territory. They kissed as the stars wheeled overhead and the desert wind sang soft songs of tomorrow. Inside, Lily woke and made happy babbling sounds. Mrs. Chen's laughter rang out, followed by Doc Walsh's gruff voice, saying something about spoiling the child rotten. The sounds of family. The sounds of home. Cole and Sarah pulled apart smiling and went inside to join them. The fight was over. The truth had won. And the future stretched before them, bright with possibility. Marshal Garrison wasted no time. The next morning, Drake and his brother Silas were transferred to the territorial jail in chains. The ledger went with them, locked in the marshal's safe, evidence too valuable to risk losing. Cole and Sarah spent the following days preparing to testify, going over the details with Garrison until every fact was airtight. The governor himself had taken an interest. This wasn't just about corruption anymore. This was about proving that justice could work even against powerful men who thought themselves untouchable. Then, 3 weeks after Drake's arrest, the trial began. The trial of Captain Vernon Drake began on a Monday morning and lasted 3 days. Sarah testified on the second day, her voice steady as she recounted the theft, the evidence, the murders. The jury deliberated for less than an hour. Guilty on all counts. Drake was sentenced to hang along with his brother Silas and the outlaws who'd worked for them. Justice, too long delayed, would finally be served. That should have been the end of it. But Jack Keller had other plans. It happened on a Tuesday morning, bright and clear, the kind of day that promised nothing but ordinary blessings. Sarah had taken Lily to Mrs. Chen's boarding house for a women's quilting circle. Doc Walsh had insisted Sarah needed to spend time with the other women in town to build connections that went beyond crisis and survival. Cole was at the general store buying supplies when he heard the screaming. He dropped the bag of flour he'd been examining and ran toward the sound, his hand finding the pistol at his hip. Other men were running too, drawn by the terror in that scream. Mrs. Chen stood in the middle of Main Street, blood running from a cut on her forehead, her face twisted in anguish. "They took her," she sobbed in broken English. "They took the baby. I tried to stop them, but—" Cole's world narrowed to a single point of absolute clarity. Where's Sarah? Inside. She fought them. They hit her, but she still fought. Cole was moving before Mrs. Chen finished speaking, taking the boarding house steps 3 at a time. He found Sarah in the parlor, struggling to stand, despite the blood flowing from a gash above her eye. Her dress was torn. Her knuckles were scraped raw. "Lily!" she gasped, reaching for Cole. "They took Lily. Keller and 2 other men. They just walked in and grabbed her from my arms, and when I tried to stop them, they—" Cole caught her as her legs gave out. "How long ago?" 5 minutes, maybe less. Sarah gripped his shirt with desperate strength. "Cole, they left this." She pressed a crumpled piece of paper into his hand. The message was written in crude block letters. "Brennan, you took everything from me, my brother, my future. Now I take everything from you. Bring the woman and the ledger to Devil's Canyon at sunset. Come alone or the baby dies screaming. Keller." The paper crumpled in Cole's fist. Around him the room seemed to pulse with a red haze. Keller had his daughter, had Lily, had taken her from the women who loved her and carried her off into the wilderness. "We go to the marshal," Doc Walsh said from the doorway. He'd followed Cole inside along with half the men from the street. "Get a posse together, track them down." "No time." Cole's voice was flat empty of everything except cold purpose. "Devil's Canyon is 2 hours' ride from here. By the time we organize a posse and reach it, sunset will be past, and Keller will kill her." "Then what do we do?" Sarah's hands were shaking as she wiped blood from her face. "We can't just hand over the ledger. It's with Marshal Garrison, evidence for Drake's trial. Keller doesn't know that." Cole helped Sarah to a chair, then turned to face the men crowding the doorway. "He thinks we still have it. Thinks he can trade Lily for it and for Sarah. Then kill us all and disappear. So we give him what he wants." Tom Merrick, the store owner, stepped forward. "Let him win. We give him what he expects." Cole's mind was working now, calculating angles and odds, the way he'd learned in the cavalry. "We go to Devil's Canyon, Sarah and me. We bring something that looks like a ledger, and when Keller shows himself, we take Lily back." "That's suicide," Doc Walsh said bluntly. "Keller won't come alone. He'll have men, guns, high ground. Then we make sure we have more." The voice came from the street outside, deep, accented with the rhythms of Apache. Every man in the room turned to see Red Hawk standing in the doorway. The Apache warrior was 40 years old, weathered by sun and wind and a lifetime of fighting. He wore a mixture of traditional clothing and practical white man's gear, his hair long and decorated with eagle feathers. His eyes found Sarah across the room, and something softened in his stern expression. "Little dove," he said in Apache, then switched to English. "I heard what happened. The white men in the square talk of nothing else." Sarah stood on shaking legs. "Red Hawk, you shouldn't be here. The town can accept one Apache warrior helping to save a child." Red Hawk stepped inside, moving with the quiet grace of a hunting cat. "I brought 10 of my best men. They wait outside town. We will help you get the baby back." "Why?" Cole asked, not with suspicion but genuine curiosity. "You don't know me, don't owe me anything." Red Hawk looked at him with those dark, ancient eyes. "You protected White Dove when her own people cast her out. You chose honor over reward. You fight for what is right even when it costs you everything." He paused. "The baby Lily. She carries White Dove's heart in her small hands. We will not let her die." Cole felt something crack in his chest. This man, this Apache warrior who had every reason to hate white settlers, was offering to risk his life for Cole's daughter. "Thank you," Cole said simply. Red Hawk nodded once. "Now, we plan." They gathered in Doc Walsh's surgery, spreading a rough map of Devil's Canyon across the examination table. Cole, Sarah, Red Hawk, Doc Walsh, Tom Merrick, and a dozen other townsmen crowded around it. "The canyon has 3 approaches," Red Hawk said, his finger tracing the terrain. "East, west, and from the high cliffs to the north. Keller will expect you to come from the east, the main trail. He will position men to watch for a posse." "So we don't come from the east," Cole said. "We split up." Red Hawk's plan was taking shape. Cole and White Dove ride in from the east as Keller expects, alone, visible. They draw his attention. "And the rest of us?" Tom Merrick asked. "My warriors take the north cliff, silent, invisible. We position ourselves above the canyon floor." Red Hawk looked at the townsmen. "You white men, you are loud, cannot move quiet like Apache. So you come from the west, but you wait. You do not show yourselves until the signal." "What signal?" Doc Walsh asked. "When Cole has Lily safe in his arms, I will sound the eagle cry." Red Hawk made a sound high and piercing that sent chills down every spine in the room. "Then we attack from all sides. Keller's men will be trapped." "It's risky," Sarah said. "If anything goes wrong, if Keller sees your men before Cole reaches Lily, then we improvise." Cole's voice was hard. "But we don't have a choice. Keller has my daughter. I'll ride into hell itself to get her back." Red Hawk smiled a fierce expression. "Good. We ride to hell together." The preparation took less than an hour. Red Hawk's warriors materialized from the scrubland outside town, 10 hard-looking men on paint ponies armed with rifles and bows. The townsmen gathered what weapons they had: hunting rifles, mostly a few pistols, one old shotgun that had seen better days. Marshal Tom Garrison arrived just as they were preparing to leave, his face dark with fury when he heard what had happened. "I'll bring federal deputies," he said. "No time," Cole replied, checking his Winchester for the 3rd time. "We leave now, or Lily dies." Garrison grabbed Cole's arm. "Then I'm coming with you. I need you here." Cole's voice was firm. "If this goes wrong, if Keller kills us all, someone needs to make sure Drake still hangs. Someone needs to tell Lily's story. Make sure people remember her mother died bringing her into this world, and her father died trying to keep her in it." Garrison's eyes were wet. "You're not going to die, Cole Brennan. You're too stubborn for that." "Maybe." Cole clasped the marshal's hand. But if I do, promise me you'll make sure Sarah's taken care of. She's been through enough, deserves a life without running. You can tell her that yourself when this is over." Sarah appeared then, dressed in riding clothes, her face set in determined lines despite the bandage on her forehead. She carried a bundle wrapped in oilskin. "Ledger," she said, seeing Cole's questioning look, "or what will pass for one. Doc had an old account book. We put it in the same kind of oilskin wrapping. Keller will know the difference the moment he opens it. Then we make sure he doesn't open it until after we have Lily." Sarah's jaw was set. "I'm coming with you, Cole. Don't try to stop me." "Wouldn't dream of it." Cole took her hand. "We do this together." They rode out at 3 in the afternoon, giving themselves time to reach Devil's Canyon before sunset, but not so early that Keller would be suspicious. Cole and Sarah went openly down the main trail visible to anyone watching. Behind them, at careful intervals, came the others. Red Hawk and his warriors peeling off to circle north, the townsmen heading west through the hills. An hour into the ride, Sarah spoke quietly. "Cole, if something happens, if Keller kills me, he won't. If he does," Sarah continued firmly, "promise me you'll tell Lily about me someday. Not the bad parts, just that I loved her, that I would have been her mother if the world had let me." Cole reined in his horse, turning to look at her. "Sarah McKenna, you listen to me. You're not dying today. Neither am I. We're both going to live long enough to grow old and watch Lily have children of her own." He reached out and touched her face. "I love you. You understand I love you, and I'm not losing you. Not today, not ever." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too. I think I have since you rode into that canyon and saved my life." They kissed there on the trail with the sun sliding toward the horizon and death waiting in the canyon ahead. Then they rode on. Devil's Canyon opened before them like a wound in the earth, red walls rising steep on either side of a narrow floor littered with boulders and scrub. The perfect place for an ambush, the perfect place to die. Cole saw Keller immediately. The outlaw stood in the center of the canyon floor holding Lily in his arms like a shield. The baby was crying, her face red, and screwed up in misery. 3 other men flanked Keller, rifles ready. "That's far enough," Keller called when Cole and Sarah were 50 yards away. "Get down off those horses, slow." They dismounted, hands visible, moving with exaggerated care. Cole's heart was hammering so hard he thought Keller must be able to hear it. "Where's the ledger?" Keller demanded. Sarah held up the oilskin bundle. "Right here. Now give us the baby." "Not how this works, darlin'." Keller's smile was ugly. "You bring it to me, real slow. Your man stays where he is." Sarah looked at Cole. In her eyes he saw fear and love and desperate hope. Then she started walking toward Keller, the fake ledger held out in front of her. Cole's hand drifted toward his pistol. "Don't even think about it," one of Keller's men said, aiming a rifle at Cole's chest. "Twitch wrong and you're dead." Sarah reached Keller, standing close enough to touch Lily. The baby saw her and reached out, crying harder. "Please," Sarah said softly, "give her to me. You have what you came for." Keller looked at the bundle, then at Sarah, then at Cole. His smile widened. "You know what I don't think I do?" He tossed the bundle to one of his men. "Check it." The man tore open the oilskin, looked at the book inside, then up at Keller. "It's a fake, just numbers. Nothing about Drake or supplies." Keller's face went dark with rage. "You think I'm stupid? You think you can trick Jack Keller?" "I think you're a coward who hides behind babies," Sarah said, her voice ringing across the canyon. "I think you're a man so small that the only way you can feel big is to hurt people weaker than you." Keller backhanded her across the face. Sarah went down hard, blood spraying from her split lip. Cole's pistol cleared leather before his mind caught up to his body. The shot took Keller's man in the shoulder, spinning him around. Then the canyon erupted. Red Hawk's eagle cry split the air high and fierce and filled with ancient fury. Apache warriors appeared on the cliff tops like magic arrows and bullets raining down on Keller's men. From the west, the townsmen charged a ragged line of farmers and shopkeepers who'd decided they were tired of letting evil men win. Keller tried to run, still holding Lily, but Sarah was faster. She lunged from the ground, grabbing his legs and bringing him down. Lily flew from his arms, tumbling across the sand. Cole was there before she hit the ground, scooping her up and rolling behind a boulder as bullets whined overhead. Lily screamed in his arms, terrified but alive, and Cole held her so tight he thought his heart might burst. "I've got you, baby girl," he whispered. "Papa's got you." The fight was brief and brutal. Keller's men, caught between Apache warriors above and angry townsmen below, threw down their weapons and surrendered. All except Keller himself. The outlaw came up with a knife, slashing at Sarah as she tried to pin him. The blade caught her arm, opening a long cut that bled freely. Sarah gasped but didn't let go, her hands clawing for his throat. Then Red Hawk was there, moving like wind over water, his own knife flashing once. Keller went down with a grunt, clutching his side where blood was already pooling. "No one hurts White Dove," Red Hawk said in Apache. "No one." Marshal Garrison appeared then, having followed despite Cole's orders to stay behind. He looked at Keller bleeding in the sand and shook his head. "Get Doc Walsh up here," he called. "This one's going to trial not dying in a canyon." Cole barely heard any of it. He was sitting against the boulder with Lily in his arms and Sarah beside him, her head on his shoulder and her hand pressed to the cut on her arm. Around them, the canyon was full of people, Apache warriors and white townsmen, standing together, victorious together. "It's over," Sarah whispered. "Really over this time." "Yeah." Cole kissed the top of Lily's head, breathing in her baby smell. "It is." Red Hawk approached, kneeling beside them. He looked at Lily for a long moment, then at Sarah. "Little dove," he said in Apache, "you have found your path. It is not the path of the people, but it is a good path, a strong path." He touched Lily's cheek gently. "This child will grow brave and wise with you and the warrior Brennan to guide her." "Thank you," Sarah said, her voice thick with tears, "for everything. For raising me, for coming when I needed you, for loving you," Red Hawk finished. "A father's love does not end when a daughter walks a different road. It only grows stronger." He stood. "We will go now, but know this, you are always welcome among the people, you and your white family. Our doors are open to you." Then he was gone, melting into the shadows with his warriors, leaving no trace except the memory of his presence. The ride back to Prescott was slow and careful, Keller tied to a horse and guarded by grim-faced townsmen. Sarah rode with Cole Lily sleeping peacefully, between them exhausted from crying. As the town came into view, lights burning warm in windows against the gathering dark, Cole realized something. They were going home, not to a ranch or a house or a piece of land. Home was Sarah's hand in his, Lily's weight against his chest, the knowledge that they'd face death together and come through it stronger. Home was this moment, this place, these people. And for the first time since his wife Sarah had died, Cole Brennan felt complete. The ledger was entered as evidence, $50,000 in stolen supplies, names, dates, amounts. Every theft documented in Drake's own hand, the man's arrogance preserving the very proof that would destroy him. The jury deliberated for less than an hour. Guilty on all counts: theft of government property, conspiracy to defraud, accessory to murder in the deaths of Apache families who'd starved when rations never arrived. The judge sentenced Drake to hang. His brother Silas, the corrupt Indian agent, received 20 years hard labor. Jack Keller, for kidnapping and attempted murder, got the rope beside Drake. On a cold morning in late September, 3 men climbed the scaffold steps in the yard behind the courthouse. A crowd of 200 watched in silence as justice, too long delayed, was finally served. Cole stood with Sarah and Lily, the baby, mercifully too young to understand what was happening. When the trapdoors opened and the ropes went taut, Sarah turned her face into Cole's shoulder. Not from sympathy for the men who'd tried to kill her, but from the weight of knowing that death even deserved death was still death. "It's done," Cole murmured against her hair. "They can't hurt you anymore. Can't hurt anyone." That afternoon, Marshal Tom Garrison found them at Doc Walsh's house, where they'd been staying since the rescue at Devil's Canyon. "Got something for you," Garrison said, handing Cole an envelope. "From the territorial governor. Reward for exposing corruption in the Army supply chain, $500. Cole stared at the envelope. More money than he'd seen in a year, enough to rebuild his ranch, buy more cattle, secure Lily's future. "It should be Sarah's," he said. "She's the one who found the evidence, risked everything to bring it forward." "Then you two can fight about it." Garrison smiled. "Personally, I think you should use it for a wedding. Seems like you've been dancing around the question long enough." Sarah looked up, her eyes wide. "Cole Brennan, did you just get proposed to by a federal marshal?" "Looks like it." Cole handed Lily to Doc Walsh and took both of Sarah's hands in his. "But I'd rather do the asking myself." He dropped to one knee right there in Doc's parlor with Garrison and Doc and Mrs. Chen watching from the doorway. "Sarah McKenna, you walked into my life when I was half dead inside. You saved my daughter before I even knew you existed. You've stood beside me through gunfights and trials and more trouble than any woman should have to endure." He paused, his voice roughening. "I'm not a rich man. I'm not eloquent. I've got a daughter who'll always come first and a little ranch that needs more work than I can give it. But I love you. With everything I am, I love you. Will you marry me?" Sarah's tears fell freely now, splashing onto their joined hands. "Yes, 1,000 times, yes." They married 2 weeks later in a ceremony that brought together people who'd never stood in the same room before. Apache and white, Mexican and Chinese. Soldiers from Fort Whipple who'd been sickened by Drake's corruption. Townspeople who'd risked everything to stand for truth. Father Rodriguez performed the ceremony in both Spanish and English, while Red Hawk stood as witness and spoke a blessing in Apache. Sarah wore a dress that Mrs. Chen and the other women had sewn together white cotton embroidered with traditional Apache patterns in blue thread. Cole wore his only suit brushed clean and pressed until the creases were sharp. Lily, dressed in a tiny white dress, toddled between them during the vows, clutching both their legs and babbling happily. When Father Rodriguez pronounced them husband and wife, the entire crowd erupted in cheers that could be heard all the way to Fort Whipple. The celebration lasted until sunset. Tables were set up in the street laden with food from every culture represented in Prescott. Mexican tamales and Chinese dumplings, Apache fry bread, and American apple pie. Music played a strange, beautiful blend of guitar and fiddle and Apache drums. Doc Walsh gave a toast that made everyone laugh and cry. To Cole Brennan, who proved that doing the right thing doesn't make you a fool. To Sarah McKenna Brennan, who showed us that courage doesn't care what color your skin is or where you came from, and to Lily, who brought them together without even knowing it. May their family be blessed with all the happiness they've earned. Red Hawk approached. As the dancing began, his weathered face creased in a smile. "Little Dove," he said, using Sarah's Apache name, "you have done well. This warrior Brennan, he is worthy of you." "Thank you," Sarah said, embracing the man who'd raised her, "for everything. For giving me a home when I had none. For teaching me to be strong. For letting me go when I needed to find my own path. A father's duty is to prepare his children to leave, not to chain them to him." Red Hawk looked at Cole. "You will protect her." "With my life," Cole answered. "Good. Then I give you both a gift." Red Hawk pulled a leather bag from his belt. "Land deed, 500 acres along Verde Creek. It belonged to a white settler who sold it and left the territory. My people bought it with money from selling horses. We give it to you now, for your family, for the future," Sarah gasped. "Red Hawk, we can't accept. You can, you will. His voice was firm. Build your home there. Raise your children. And when you are ready, help us build a trading post. A place where Apache and White can meet in peace. Exchange goods, learn from each other. Cole clasped Red Hawk's hand. We'll make it a place of honor, I swear it. I know you will. Red Hawk touched Lily's cheek one last time. Grow strong, little one. The world needs warriors like your mother and father. As the sun set over Prescott, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Cole and Sarah danced their first dance as husband and wife. Lily was asleep in Mrs. Chen's arms, exhausted from all the attention. Around them, the celebration continued, a testament to what people could build when they chose hope over hate. What are you thinking? Sarah asked, her head resting on Cole's shoulder as they swayed to the music. I'm thinking about my first Sarah, Cole said honestly, wondering if she can see this, if she knows that I finally let myself live again instead of just surviving. I think she knows. Sarah's arms tightened around him. I think she's glad you found someone to help carry the weight, to be a mother to Lily. And I'm thinking about tomorrow, Cole continued, about building a house on that land Red Hawk gave us, about watching Lily grow up, about growing old with you. Just tomorrow, Sarah smiled against his chest. I'm thinking about all the tomorrows, all the years we'll have, all the mornings I'll wake up next to you. That too. Cole kissed the top of her head, all of it, every single day. The seasons turned. Winter came and went, bringing snow to the high country and frost to the valleys. Spring arrived with wildflowers and new calves. Summer blazed hot and fierce. Another winter, another spring. 1 year after their wedding, Cole and Sarah stood on the porch of the house they'd built together on the land Red Hawk had given them. It was a good house, not large but solid, built with help from townspeople and Apache warriors working side by side. The walls were thick adobe, cool in summer and warm in winter. The roof was sound. The windows faced east to catch the morning sun. Lily, now 2 years old and talking in full sentences, played in the yard with a puppy that Red Hawk had brought on his last visit. She'd grown into a sturdy, fearless child with her mother's determination and her father's steady nature. When she fell, she got up without crying. When Sarah taught her Apache words, she learned them eagerly. When Cole showed her how to gentle a horse, she listened with fierce concentration. Mama, Lily called, running toward the porch. Look, Puppy learned to sit. Sarah knelt and swept Lily into her arms. Did he? What a smart puppy, and what a smart girl to teach him. Cole watched them, his heart full to bursting. Sarah had taken to motherhood like she'd been born for it, patient and loving, and fierce in her protection of Lily. The little girl called her Mama, without any memory that the word had once belonged to someone else. And Sarah never tried to erase the first Sarah's memory. She kept the photo on the mantel, talked about her to Lily with love and respect, made sure the child knew she'd had 2 mothers who loved her. The ranch was thriving. They ran 100 head of cattle, now sold horses to the army and to settlers moving west. The trading post Red Hawk had envisioned was a sturdy building at the crossroads where Apache and White could meet in peace. Sarah managed it, her fluency in both languages and both cultures, making her the perfect bridge between worlds. Every month, Apache families came to trade. Blankets and baskets for flour and coffee, horses for tools and cloth. Not charity, not handouts, fair trade between equals. And slowly, tentatively, understanding began to grow. You look thoughtful, Sarah said, joining Cole on the porch after settling Lily back to play. What's on your mind? Everything we've built. Cole gestured at the ranch, the fields, the trading post visible in the distance. A year ago, I was hiding you in Doc Walsh's cellar. Now look at us. Home, family, peace. Not perfect peace, Sarah said. There are still people who don't like that I'm Apache, still settlers who resent the trading post, still warriors who think any cooperation with whites is betrayal. But it's better than it was, Cole took her hand. "And it'll keep getting better as long as people like us keep trying." A rider appeared on the horizon, moving at an easy pace. As he drew closer, Cole recognized Tom Garrison's distinctive silhouette. The marshal dismounted with a groan, his 53-year-old bones protesting the long ride. "Got news from the territorial capital. Thought you'd want to hear it in person." "Good news or bad?" Cole asked, offering water. "Depends on your perspective." Garrison drank deep, then wiped his mouth. "Governor's creating a new position. Peace Commissioner. Someone to mediate between settlers and tribes. Help prevent another war. They want to offer it to you, Sarah." Sarah's eyes widened. "Me, I'm not a politician. I'm not educated in law or government." "You're educated in both worlds," Garrison said. "You speak both languages. You've lived both lives. And you've proven you'll risk everything to do what's right." He paused. "It's not an easy job. Lots of travel. Meetings with tribal chiefs and territorial officials. People on both sides will hate you for trying to find middle ground." "So nothing new then," Sarah said with a slight smile. "Will you consider it?" Sarah looked at Cole. "It would mean time away from home, from you and Lily." "It would mean making a real difference," Cole countered. "Helping more people than just those who come to our trading post. Isn't that what we've been working toward, peace between our peoples?" "We," Sarah repeated. "You'd support this. I'd be proud of you for doing it." Cole squeezed her hand. "Besides, Lily and I would manage. We'd miss you terribly, but we'd manage. And knowing you were out there, preventing wars, saving lives, building bridges, that would make the missing worthwhile." Sarah was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the land they'd made their own. Then she nodded. "Tell the governor I'll do it. On one condition." "What's that?" Garrison asked. "Cole serves as my deputy. When I travel to meet with tribal chiefs, he comes with me. Shows that this isn't just an Apache woman trying to convince whites to give ground. It's a partnership, both sides working together." Garrison grinned. "I think the governor will agree to that." After Garrison left, Cole and Sarah sat on the porch and watched the sunset. Lily was asleep inside, worn out from playing. The puppy dozed at their feet. In the distance, smoke rose from the trading post where the evening fires were being lit. "Are you scared?" Cole asked. "Terrified," Sarah admitted. "What if I fail? What if I make things worse instead of better? Then you'll learn and try again. That's what you've always done." Cole pulled her close. "You survived being orphaned at 8, survived 11 years in a culture that wasn't yours by birth, survived exile and attempted murder, and a corrupt army captain trying to kill you. I think you can survive a few difficult meetings." Sarah laughed, but there were tears in her eyes. "When you put it that way, it sounds almost easy." "Nothing worth doing is easy. You taught me that." They sat in comfortable silence as the stars began to appear one by one like diamonds scattered across velvet. "Cole," Sarah's voice was soft, "do you ever regret it saving me that day in the canyon, all the trouble it brought you?" "Not for a single second." Cole turned to look at her, his wife, his partner, the woman who'd taught him to live again. "You gave me my life back, Sarah. Gave Lily a mother. Gave me a purpose beyond just surviving day to day. If I could go back to that moment knowing everything that would happen, I'd do it all exactly the same. Even the parts where we nearly died, especially those parts. They made us who we are." Sarah kissed him, then long and deep, a kiss that tasted of tomorrow and all the tomorrows after that. Inside the house, Lily stirred and called out, "Mama, Papa." They went to her together, these two wounded souls who'd found each other in a canyon and built something beautiful from the wreckage of their pasts. They tucked her back in, singing the Apache lullaby that had become their daughter's favorite. "Sleep, little bird, the sky will hold you. Dream of tomorrow when the sun is warm and the grass is green and all the world is home." Later, standing once more on their porch, Cole and Sarah watched the moon rise over their land. In the distance, they could see campfires at the trading post, Apache and white sharing food, and stories building the fragile beginnings of understanding. "Do you think it will last?" Sarah asked. This peace we're trying to build, I don't know, Cole answered honestly. There are too many people on both sides who profit from hate, too much history, too much pain. But I think it's worth fighting for anyway, worth trying even if we fail. Because if we don't try, if we just accept that war is inevitable, then we guarantee it happens. He pulled her close. We can't change the past, can't undo the theft and murder and broken treaties, but we can build a different future, one choice at a time, one conversation at a time, one bridge at a time, one family at a time, Sarah added. She took Cole's hand and placed it gently on her stomach. Speaking of family, Cole froze, his eyes widening as understanding dawned. Sarah, are you? I think so. Her smile was radiant, even in the darkness. It's early. I'm not certain yet. But I feel different. The way I felt before. She stopped, realizing what she'd almost said. But Cole understood. The way his first Sarah had felt when she'd been carrying Lily. A baby. He whispered, his hand still pressed to her stomach. Our baby. Are you happy? Sarah's voice held a note of uncertainty. Cole pulled her close, his throat tight with emotion. Happy doesn't even begin to cover it. They stood together in the starlight, Cole's hand on Sarah's stomach, both of them imagining the life growing there, a brother or sister for Lily. A child who would grow up knowing both worlds, Apache and white, and maybe help bridge the gap between them. One family at a time, Cole said again, and this time the words felt like a promise to the future. One family at a time, Sarah agreed. They stood together as the desert wind sang its ancient songs, and the stars wheeled overhead in their eternal dance. Two people from different worlds who'd found common ground in love and courage and the simple determination to do what was right. The road ahead would be hard. There would be setbacks and failures, times when hate seemed stronger than hope, times when the bridges they built were burned by those who preferred walls. But tonight, in this moment, standing on the porch of the home they'd built together with their daughter, sleeping safe inside, and a future bright with possibility stretching before them, they had everything they needed. They had each other. They had Lily. They had hope. And sometimes hope is enough to change the world. One day at a time, one choice at a time, one love at a time. The desert wind carried their whispered words up into the endless Arizona night. I love you, Sarah said. I love you, Cole answered. And somewhere in the darkness, watching over them, the spirits of all those who'd come before smiled and blessed this union of earth and sky, of past and future, of two hearts that had found their way home. The story of Cole Brennan and Sarah McKenna was just beginning, but it was a beginning built on truth and forged in fire. A beginning that would echo through generations, a legacy of courage, a promise kept, a love that conquered fear. And in the end, isn't that what all the best stories are about? Not the absence of struggle, but the triumph of hope. Not the avoidance of pain, but the healing that comes after. Not the perfection of the journey, but the beauty of walking it together. As the moon rose higher and the night deepened, Cole and Sarah returned inside. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The work of peace-building was never done. But tonight they would rest in the knowledge that they'd fought for something greater than themselves. And they'd won. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough. And sometimes enough is everything. The end.